Imagine this. You arrive on the edge of the known world, a place carved out of dense forest where every sound feels like it's watching you. You leave your family behind for what should be only a few weeks, and when you come back, every single soul is gone. No blood, no graves, no tracks in the sand. Just a single word carved into dead wood. Karaden. A word that explains nothing, but somehow means everything. Over 400 years later, historians still argue. Were they murdered? Did they run? Were they taken, or did they choose to vanish? And why does every search for truth just raise more questions? Tonight, we're not just telling the story. We're going there, walking the same cracked soil, reading the last letters they ever wrote, digging through the lost journals of Richard Gray, the man who left and came back to find ghosts. What if the truth isn't what you've heard in textbooks? What if the final clue has been hiding in plain sight for centuries? Stay with us, Bacchus. You'll see theories few dare to share, read diaries never shown on camera, and maybe, just maybe, walk away knowing what really happened to the settlers of Roanoke. This is the hidden side. It began with just 115 souls. Men, women, children, led by a man history barely remembers, Richard Gray. They crossed an ocean, chasing a promise of land, wealth, and survival. The town they built on that barrier island wasn't much. Rough wooden stockades, thatched roofs, fields of corn they barely managed to keep alive. But it was meant to be home. And for nearly a year it was, until Richard Gray sailed back to England to fetch supplies that would save them from the next winter. Imagine leaving your family promising, "I'll be back before the leaves fall." And when you return, it's not just your wife who's missing. Every voice, every heartbeat, every footprint, gone. Richard's journal, found centuries later in a sealed trunk in Devon, says only this: all have departed. Houses pulled down. No sign of struggle. Only the name. Karaden. A single word. Carved into gray wood, sun-split and weather-beaten. No sign of violence. No graves. No tracks. Just emptiness. What happened here? Were they killed? Did they flee? Or did something darker, older, more patient take them? We'll tear open the records, the letters, the half-buried remains. We'll follow Richard Gray's footsteps through the rotted palisades and the marshland beyond, and piece together a puzzle history left unfinished. Before we go further, ask yourself, if your family vanished, what single clue would you leave behind? And what if that word wasn't a clue at all, but a warning? August 1590. After 3 years of war delays and broken promises, Richard Gray finally returns, with the ship half rotted by salt and time, and hope fading with every wave. But the sight that greets him is not hunger or sickness. It's nothing. Houses pulled down, as if carefully dismantled, not destroyed. Gardens overgrown, tools rusted where they lay. And on the edge of the settlement, carved deep into the grayest beam, Karaden. No bodies. No fresh graves. No sign of a fight. Just a word that raised more fear than comfort. I find only ruin in the name. God keep them, for I cannot. Richard Gray, private diary. And then, the questions began. Why dismantle your own homes? Why leave no message beyond a single name? And where could over 100 souls vanish, in a land watched by scouts, hunters, and spies? Historians today, and the amateur sleuths obsessed with the case, have built theories stacked like bones. The attack by neighboring tribes. Secret voyage south to safer shores. Starvation driving them inland. And darker whispers, cult, curse, or sabotage from within. Put yourself in Richard Gray's boots. The silence is louder than screams. The air feels wrong, like the town itself is trying to hide something from you. And in every shadow you imagine the people you loved, still watching. But what few people know is what Gray did next. For 3 nights, he and his small landing party camped on the edge of the empty settlement. And in his lost journal, only rediscovered by a distant descendant, Lydia Gray, in 1906, he writes, I heard voices by the palisade, not English nor savage, whispered, calling my name. Could these be hallucinations, guilt, fever, madness? Or were the lost colonists still alive, watching from the forest, too afraid to return? For 3 days, Richard Gray and 6 men from his crew refused to leave. They camped at the edge of the palisade, watching, listening, hoping for a single living face to step from the trees. On the second night, Gray wrote, "Heard low voices beyond the palisade. They called not in words I know, yet I felt my name upon their breath." What did they hear? Fear? Guilt? Or something real? At dawn, Gray and his men left the settlement, following faint tracks into the woods. Broken saplings, footprints too small for soldiers, and strange marks scratched into trees, spirals, arrows, crude stick figures. Could these be signs left by the missing settlers? A secret path, or a warning? By midday, they reached the banks of what Gray named Elder Grove Creek. On a mud flat, half buried under reeds, they found something chilling. A child's leather shoe, still soft from damp. Beside it, a small wooden carving, the same spiral symbol found on trees. It was proof someone had passed this way. But how long ago, and why no sign of camp, no fresh smoke, no voices? That night, Gray's journal turns darker. Men grow restless. We hear movement but see nothing. One swears he glimpsed pale figures upriver. The forest seemed alive, watching them, every branch an eye, every wind a whisper. The spiral, it turns out, wasn't random. A mark to ward off evil spirits. Or to bind something in place. Were the settlers trying to keep something out? Or hold something in? On the morning of the 4th day, Gray's party found more than signs. A ruined lean-to shelter, ashes still faintly warm, and beside them fresh footprints leading deeper inland. Someone had been alive, watching, and close enough to leave the fire glowing overnight. But the men were exhausted, hungry, terrified. Gray faced a choice: follow the trail, or turn back to the coast before disease or ambush finished them all. In the end, Gray wrote, "My heart pulls me onward. My duty holds me back." With the ship already short on water and the men near revolt, Gray ordered retreat. It was the last time any English eyes saw the inland trail left by the vanished colonists. And so the colony remained empty. The word Caradon still waiting in sun and rain. And the question growing darker with every generation. Did Gray turn back just moments before finding them alive? Or was it already too late? Richard Gray turned back to the sea, leaving behind silence, symbols, and the question that would haunt him forever. Were they just out of reach, waiting to be saved? The ship Red Wake limped home through storms that lasted weeks. Sickness claimed 3 sailors. Supplies ran thin. And every night, Gray wrote the same line in his diary. "They are gone. God forgive me." In London, Gray wrote a private letter, never meant for the crown. Centuries later, it surfaced at auction, bearing the mark of House Gray. I heard them in the night. Voices calling my name from the pines. Not alive, but not dead either. Was this confession? Madness? Or a clue no historian ever fully understood? Back in England, the story twisted in every retelling. Some claimed the settlers had turned savage. Others blamed hidden enemies, spies, pirates, traitors. And the darkest rumor, the town had been claimed by something older than men. But no ship returned to search. And so the colony was left to rot and to legend. In 1997, historian Dr. Lydia Hart reopened Gray's journals. What she found shocked her. References to symbols, inland tracks, and something never reported in Gray's official logs. They marked the trees to keep it bound. Could it be true? Did the settlers know something haunted the forest, and tried to warn those who came after? Lydia traced the symbols inland. Overlaid with satellite data, they formed a rough circle, miles wide, around what would have been the heart of the colony. Was it a boundary? A protection spell? Or a cage for something too dangerous to name? We asked Lydia ourselves. Her answer? I don't know what they feared, but they feared it enough to carve warnings into living wood. And then, a shock. In 2002, a volunteer dig team uncovered a rusted, corroded dagger, bearing the spiral mark. Carbon dating placed it in the late 16th century, the era of the lost colonists. Spring 2003. Dr. Lydia Hart and her team stood at the edge of what old maps marked as Gray's Camp. Over centuries, the forest had swallowed every trace, but ground-penetrating radar showed something hidden just below the roots. They dug through layers of mud, ash, and broken pottery, until they found it. A flat stone hand-carved, and beneath it, a sealed wooden box blackened with age. For Lydia, the discovery was chilling. The dagger matched the one found earlier, proving it was no accident. And the parchment, though barely legible, held a single name: Gray. Lydia's theory shocked even seasoned historians. These weren't random objects, she told us. They were left as a message, or as a ward, to hold something trapped. But trapped what? Disease? A person? Or something older, born in legend, bound in fear? Across different tribal stories, the spiral means many things. A path to the afterlife, a mark to keep evil spirits at bay, or a binding symbol keeping darkness from crossing over. Imagine you're among the settlers. Strange sounds in the woods, livestock vanishing, children whispering of shadows that watch. Would you carve warnings into every tree? Would you bury tokens of protection, even if it cost your life? Even now, Lydia admitted unease. The forest feels heavy, as if it remembers. At night you feel watched. I can't explain it, but it's real. One volunteer quit the dig after claiming she saw figures in the fog at dawn. Another swore he heard children's laughter deep among the trees, though no children lived for miles. Superstition? Or did the settlers leave behind something more than symbols? As Lydia plotted every discovered spiral, something emerged. A near-perfect ring 2 miles wide, encircling what had been the heart of Roanoke. A boundary, a prison, or a last desperate warning to anyone who dared enter. Coming up next, we follow the final days of the dig, when Lydia's team found something that made even skeptics step back. And we ask, what if Roanoke wasn't lost, but buried alive? After weeks of rain, heat, and setbacks, Lydia's team reached the oldest layer of soil, untouched since the last settlers vanished. And there, buried under centuries of pine roots, lay the strangest find yet. A wooden panel, hand-carved, water-warped, but unmistakable. The spiral, etched over and over, until the surface was almost completely covered. Under the spiral, faint words emerged. We kept it bound. May God forgive us if it breaks free. Signed simply, R.G. Richard Gray. His last message hidden where only the desperate would dig. Was Gray warning the next ship? Was he explaining why no one returned? Or confessing to something darker, that they had trapped, or unleashed, a horror buried deep in the woods? Theory 1. Massacre by native tribes? But why dismantle homes so carefully? Theory 2. Voluntary migration inland? But why leave a carved warning? Theory 3. The settlers themselves turned to ritual, binding a force they believed hunted them. None fully explain why every trace of life vanished, and why even now the site feels watched. Lydia's voice shook as she told us, I'm a historian, but standing among those trees, you feel it, fear leaves fingerprints. Could fear itself build walls stronger than stone? Could it make a whole town choose to disappear? One theory holds they gathered under the moon, praying, carving symbols, burying tokens, in a final act of desperation. And then, they walked away into the forest, never to be seen again. No graves, no bones, just silence, and the name Caradon waiting under moss and rain. For 4 centuries, Roanoke has haunted every historian, every storyteller. Not just because they disappeared, but because they left behind so little, yet spoke so loudly in fear. What would you leave behind if your world was ending? A warning? A prayer? Or a single carved word, hoping someone someday would understand? Richard Gray's last words echo even now. We kept it bound. May God forgive us if it breaks free. Bound what? And did it break free? If this mystery haunts you too, don't stop here. Dig deeper. Because history doesn't bury its secrets forever. If this mystery haunts you too, don't stop here. Subscribe and join us on the hidden side, because some secrets were never meant to stay buried.